Welcome to episode 6 of Fat Guys and Friends. Even though I called it episode 6 last time, that was episode 5 if you've been keeping track. This is now episode 6, and I am reunited with fellow fat man and good friend Colton Bartholomew.
Mr. Wang, I'm back.
Oh, it's so good to have you back. I had to talk to a couple jabronis last time.
Yeah, no kidding. I like what you guys did, though, even though neither of them have your elegant broadcasting voice.
I mean, you gotta hone your craft, and they just don't have it yet.
No kidding.
They get there. But Fat Guys are reunited, and we're here to talk Money in the Bank and Monday Night Raw and Roman Reigns. What a joker that guy is, huh?
No kidding. Bombshell. If there was a Adrian Wojnarowski for WWE, this would be a Woj bomb.
Oh, for sure. For those who haven't heard, Roman Reigns has been suspended 30 days by the WWE for violating the wellness policy. Connor of the Ascension and Adam Rose have both recently been suspended. They were suspended 60 days each because it was their second violation, 30 days for Roman Reigns because this is his first. But how crazy is this?
First we should probably just throw out, we don't know anything more than what was said in the WWE release or what we've seen in internet rumors.
Yeah, you
but
don't
just
know what exactly he was suspended for.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is WWE, they're beholden to their shareholders and nobody else. There's no CBA or union that says, oh, we have to disclose or we don't disclose this or that. So we'll never entirely know what got Roman suspended, but we're smart enough to figure out it was one of three things: either steroids, hard drugs, or pot.
Yeah, that's really the only things you get suspended for in the WWE.
Yeah, and this is not the first time a headliner has been caught doing roids or has done roids, because hell, everybody from the 70s and 80s were juiced out of the gills. But I think this is probably the first time that a top level guy has been suspended because of the wellness policy that they have really trumpeted as the WWE trying to take care of the wrestlers before they get too out of control. And you have to give them credit. This is bad. This is bad for business. This is not good to suspend a top guy. But if he violated the rules, they got to do it.
The last time I remember a top guy getting suspended, I think, was 2007, when Randy Orton got caught with steroids. But other than that...
Oh, man, I totally forgot about that, yeah.
Yeah, there hasn't really been, like Roman Reigns, as much as we hate to hear it, was the guy in WWE. And now the big going around is that they're going to let him come back on Monday night so they can write him off of TV, and he'll still be able to fight in the triple threat match at Battleground.
That's weak, though. I saw that link that you sent me today that basically said that, but they don't give anybody else that. I guess that's their prerogative. If it's a star guy, they can bend the rules. But if you're trying to say, hey, here's a precedent, what better for them to say, hey, Roman Reigns, you failed a drug test, and more importantly, you're not drawing numbers and you're actually getting booed more than you're getting cheered. Well, you know what? Let's just sit you down for a month.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, but when you're the guy, you get special treatment. That's true in all of sports, and it's true in the WWE.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And getting back to, just kind of how big this hurts in a lot of ways. Like you mentioned, the in-ring and the on-TV stuff, obviously he's a main eventer, and he's, the guy. He's one of the top 3 guys in the company right now. Mm-hmm. So obviously he's going to affect every Raw from here until the end of his suspension and the pay-per-view coming up. And then more importantly, the draft, because Roman Reigns is going to be a top pick for one of the 2 brands, but now it's he's coming off a now highly publicized suspension for likely steroids. We don't, like we said, we don't know, but let's just be real here. That's the most likely of our possibilities.
Either steroids or marijuana are the top 2 choices.
Yeah. And, even looking at it from an out-of-ring thing, this just hurts WWE because him being a babyface, he was kind of portrayed as this, wholesome family guy. They had that kind of weird commercial with his daughter that eventually became an angle with Bray Wyatt. But, they trumpet this guy as this awesome person and, has the family bloodlines of WWE success and everything. And then it's like, oh, he got caught either cheating or doing drugs. Either way, that's not good.
Yeah, WWE can dance around it however they want. They're trying to groom him to be the next John Cena. Because Cena's got a good 5 years maybe left in him. And as much as WWE doesn't want to face it, John Cena can't wrestle forever. Somebody eventually has to take the torch away from John Cena, and they were grooming Roman Reigns to be that guy.
You're totally right. And, because it's fun to do in wrestling and sports, kind of cross-comparing them, John Cena is kind of like the LeBron. He's been there for almost 15 years now. Undisputedly one of the best, maybe not the most liked, but everyone understands that eventually this guy's going to be gone. And you can already see John Cena is planting the seeds. He's getting himself ready that when his body can't wrestle anymore, he's still going to be able to be a big-time actor in bit parts or maybe even some more starring roles, or, just making a lot of cameos, making a bunch of money, and living the easy life.
Yeah, John Cena has a life after wrestling, for sure. He's a genuinely funny dude, and he's shown in movies that he can hold his own in the movie world. I mean, he's no Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson by any means, but he'll be able to make the crossover into the Hollywood world, for sure.
Definitely. And, like you said, they wanted Roman to take over that mantle for John Cena of being the guy that's going to pack stadiums for a decade. But for whatever reason, obviously the internet fandom has kind of just turned on him because they didn't like how he was force-fed to pretty much push to the top without having any challenge, I would say.
I would say one of the main things or main reasons why people don't like Roman Reigns is just because he didn't get his own brand after the Shield. Like Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, I know you and I have talked about that a lot.
Dean Ambrose got his own music. Seth Rollins got his own music. They both changed their attire. Roman Reigns is still wearing almost the bulletproof vest and cargo pants and just has a Shield remix as his entrance. And he still came out through the crowd for the next year and a half after the Shield broke up.
Yeah, he only stopped coming through the crowd until right before WrestleMania when they were having so much problems at house shows. I read this. They were having so many problems of people getting in his way and him having to shove people off of him at house shows that he was basically like, I'm not getting arrested for punching some drunk idiot. I'm coming through the back.
Yeah, you can't blame the guy. I mean, he's getting from the internet wrestling fans and he wanted to walk through a crowd of a bunch of internet wrestling fans.
Yeah, I mean, your TV show audiences are going to be a little bit more mainstream and not as many hardcore internet guys, but it's hardcore internet guys that are buying the house show tickets.
Exactly.
And he was walking through those guys and having so many altercations that it just became a liability for everybody. And getting back to this suspension, it's just for a guy that the WWE invested so much in to do whatever he did, it's weird because we haven't seen it since WWE has kind of turned towards the more PG or reality era, however you want to call it. Just this time of trying to get mainstream recognition and trying to push guys that are able to cross over. They haven't had a big problem like this.
To try and draw it to sports again, it makes me think of Deflategate with Tom Brady getting suspended, but it's so much different than that too, because what Tom Brady did is so much up in the air when Roman Reigns had to fail a test to be suspended.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. Just that level of star, that type of guy doing something that is against the rules, allegedly. If I'm personally in the camp that Tom Brady didn't deflate any footballs himself, and I don't think he specifically told anybody to do anything.
I just hate Tom Brady so much. I'd like to see him to get suspended.
Fair enough. But with Roman Reigns right now, the like I said, this is not the first mainstay in wrestling to get popped doing steroids or doing drugs. I mean, Hulk Hogan basically went and made a couple of movies because he was so roided out that he was getting like internally sick back in the early 90s.
And then he made a couple of other movies that got him in trouble.
Yeah, that was later on in life. But but just like I said, the timing of it just came at such a bad time for WWE because they're getting all this talk in so many circles, in the sports circles, of, oh man, there's going to be more wrestling on TV, and then that becomes a conversation for the TV circles, like, is cable TV going to sustain 2 wrestling shows that are live and are going to need a lot of live viewers to prompt the advertising dollars that they need? So you get all this, lots of buzz going on for the brand split and everything that's coming up, and then all of a sudden, one of the top guys that people outside the wrestling world know, I mean, he's been on SportsCenter a few times, he's been in all the promotional stuff for the last couple of WrestleManias, he's become a relatively well-known guy, and then for him to be a guy that's getting caught either drugs or steroids or whatever, it's just such a big blow.
For sure. He will undoubtedly be one of the main guys on whichever show he goes to. Whether he's on Raw or SmackDown, he's going to be feuding for whatever title is on that show.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to be a mainstay of whichever one. And it's going to be really hard, I feel like, for him to come back from this because, as we know, nothing dies in the internet. And when you get a guy that's already hated by internet people, like the hardcore, like we said, the hardcore internet wrestling fans just don't like Roman Reigns and inaccurately chant that he can't wrestle and do things that just are almost mean-spirited to a point. And then you add in the fact that he's going to have a suspension that's going to hang over his head for at least a few months when he comes back. That's a recipe for disaster for a new show.
It was reported that WWE knew about his wellness policy failed test before Money in the Bank went on the air. So I
saw that same report.
The big reason I think that Roman dropped the title, but why not write him off of TV that night if you know that he's been suspended?
I agree with you there. They probably could have said, oh, he just got injured in the match or did something that they usually do to write people off.
They did it with when he had to have nasal surgery with the Triple H build-up to WrestleMania. They had said Triple H beat his face so bad he needed facial reconstructive surgery, when really he just got a procedure done so he wouldn't snore as much as night.
Oh, yeah. But you can't, as much as you want to say, oh, those are the rules, you have to follow them, you can't have a guy that was in the main event and that people presumably bought tickets to see not show up.
Without
that was
explanation. You can't just be like, Roman's not here, sorry.
Yeah, and you don't want to be like, oh, hey, by the way, Money in the Bank crowd, he got suspended, so you get nothing tonight. Seth Rollins isn't going to fight. And it's like, nah, you can't really do that.
People would riot. People love Seth Rollins.
Yeah. But I talked just a minute ago about the brand split and just kind of how that's looming over everything that's happening right now. The Roman Reigns situation playing into it too. This kind of is hurting the storytelling that they're trying to do with the Shield, almost reunite in a triple threat match and everything, because the big storylines we know have to come to an end, or if they're going to continue, it's like, oh wow, they magically, the top 3 guys in the company went to the same show. Who's drafting? Who's the idiot that's picking the people?
Yeah, wrestling does so many things where they can't help but let you know it's staged sometimes, and the draft is going to end up being one of those things. Because just by chance, I bet John Cena and AJ Styles end up on the same show. But how does that happen? Yep.
Oh, but just with this Roman thing, the brand split hangs over it as like that becomes the story, even more than the matches you're putting out there. It's like, okay, well then what happens in a month when there's this draft? And now with Roman, like, you want to have him be number 1 when he's coming off can you call it cheating? Maybe. I mean, I don't think any other wrestler is going to be like, oh, he cheated his way to the top by doing steroids. It's like, well, so did everybody. But
he just happened to get caught.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it is with most things. When everybody's doing it, you just have to be smart enough to know you're not going to get caught doing it.
Yeah, true. And WWE really installed this wellness policy as a safeguard for them for lawsuits, because that was a big thing that happened to them in, I think it was like 94 or 95, when Congress almost was investigating them for distributing steroids. And Hulk Hogan testified against WWE, and all this crazy stuff happened. And it was like, all right, fine, if that's how it's going to be, we're going to test you all, and once you fail, we're going to suspend you and do all this other stuff, because later on down the line, we don't want you to say we knew about it and didn't stop you when you overdose and kill yourself.
Yeah, people forget that WWE almost got shut down in the mid-90s because Congress was invading them.
Yeah, by like the FBI and the Justice Department.
It was insane. But Roman Reigns is kind of an idiot for this, but how about we move on to breaking down Money in the Bank a little bit?
Yeah. Roman bomb. Woj bomb.
Do you want to talk about the pre-show at all? Because I think they were just kind of filler matches.
Yeah, no, pre-show, let's just
there's
jump right over.
Nothing really to say there. Baron Corbin beat Dolph Ziggler in their 67th match, I think. I hope to God this feud is over.
See, it can't be, though, because there's no other thing that they can throw him in for the next month, either one of these guys in for the next month, that would be entertaining enough. Like, they can put on a decent match together, mostly because Dolph Ziggler can put on a decent match with anybody, and Baron Corbin's 7 foot tall.
Yeah,
that's really
Dolph
the only
Ziggler
appeal.
Is so underrated in the WWE. It's
almost criminal.
Yeah, they could do so much more with the guy, but just because he's not 6'4", 250 pounds, Vince looks over him, which is such.
Let me tell you right now, if Dolph Ziggler had a better name, he'd be a main eventer all the time. I said this when because everybody kind of goes through that dark period where they just kind of stopped watching wrestling for a while. And not mean like dark, like the depressed time, just like you stopped watching wrestling. But like when I started getting back into it, when my friends were telling me, "Oh, this guy Dolph Ziggler is awesome," I'm like, "That's a terrible fucking name." Yeah. Like I don't care about a guy named Dolph Ziggler, and he's just been around too long. They can't change it now unless they throw a mask on him or something.
He could go by Mr. America, that worked with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Going old school, I love it.
The name is pretty dumb, but you can't really do anything with it. And you were so right about everything, because with this draft coming up in 4-ish weeks now, I think it might even be 3. Just they can't do anything new because nobody knows what they're going to do, which is probably why we're going to see almost the exact same card at Battleground that we saw at Money in the Bank.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think you're gonna see something like an Owen Zayn tagging up with either Jericho or Del Rio or whoever else. Basically, all the Money in the Bank guys besides Ambrose in some type of match together. Because, like you're saying, you can't advance any stories right now because then you're just wasting a feud, and you can't expect. They need to build momentum leading into this draft. They've got to have solid stuff on the next 3-4 Raws, getting into the next pay-per-view and then the draft, because they've got to, again, like the ratings are going to be so key for the next couple of months, especially when SmackDown goes live again. It's going to just be a really interesting time to see what happens, because if you're expecting the wrestling audience to invest in 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, and then potentially another couple hours a week on the network, like, you've got to make it all good, and that's hard.
Exactly. So probably, much to my chagrin, we'll see Dolph Ziggler against Baron Corbin again. But they've been feuding long enough where you can give them a gimmick match of some sort. You can give them like a last man standing match.
They need to do something else with them. Throw them in Throw them in a cage match. Do something.
Do something with them because it's been long enough.
And I think I was either talking to you or my friend Matt about Baron Corbin in general. I'm not sure if anyone in WWE realizes it, but unless he keeps fighting small guys that have crazy core strength, he can't hit his finisher. Yeah,
it's going to be hard to lift a big man up like that.
Like, if you watch the way that Corbin does his finisher, like the guy who's taken the bump has to jump into his arm, basically do a leg lift almost to his head, and then whip himself back down. And the only two guys he's done it to effectively so far are Ziggler and now Zack Ryder, both ripped guys who are a little bit smaller and more athletic.
Yeah, if he ever gets a push for, say, the U.S. title, I don't know if Rusev is going to be able to take that bump.
Yeah, exactly. And not to keep talking about Baron Corbin because he doesn't deserve as much time as we've already given him, but JBL mentioned something that's like, oh, this is a future champion. The minute they start saying that about a guy, I hate it, and I just dislike the guy even more, because that means that somebody in creative has this grand plan for him, and I'm like, well, if you've got this plan, get moving, because I don't like it.
Yeah, if you're going to make somebody a champion, let it come naturally. Like, don't have the announcers announce it before it's going to happen. Have it be they randomly get a U.S. title or IC title match where it wasn't billed before by the commentary team. Because you're right, they spoil that stuff all the time. And wrestling just becomes so predictable when they do that.
Exactly. And if you're not at least surprised every once in a while, then the curtain's lifted, and it's just like, oh, awesome. I feel dumb for watching this now.
Yep, it's just men grappling each other in their underwear at that point. Match after that was Apollo Crews versus Sheamus, which I thought was an all-right match, but they just didn't give the guys enough TV time to make the feud worthwhile yet.
Yeah, they did a lot of backstage stuff, and I don't know if that's just because they wanted to give Apollo Crews some mic time, which he did okay at. They don't. That's the only problem with a lot of these NXT guys is they don't have a ton of experience with it.
They barely cut promos in NXT.
Yeah, they don't cut a ton of promos, and then more importantly, they don't cut TV promos. Exactly. Because NXT goes on the network. They can go long on accident as long as it's okay.
And it's always.
But when you get to TV, you are on a second-by-second stopwatch.
Mm-hmm. Apollo Crews is so. I called him on the last podcast. He's so cookie cutter. Like my brother said it perfectly. Where in his first backstage promo with the Big Show, he was like, "Why's that guy picking on me?" Which is just, that's not what you say. You're a grown man.
Yeah, man, you are a giant
man. You're not getting picked on. It's a fight. Come on, man.
Yeah, and to use Big Show, who knows what he is as a face or a heel now? Who cares? It's Big Show. He turns 7,000 times a year. But like to use him as some type of old wise sage of backstage wrestling, it's like he's always been picking on people. Who cares?
Yeah, Sheamus is a bad guy. It's what he does.
Yeah, and you mentioned Apollo Crews being cookie cutter. Well, it doesn't help that they give him essentially the same moves and the same look of Bobby Lashley.
I said the minute that he came in, and I was called a racist.
Well, like it would be racist if it was only just because they're large black men, but it's because they do the exact same things. Lots of power suplexes and way too much jumping stuff.
Yep.
And eventually it's just going to get old, or he's going to hurt somebody, because you can't take a bump from a 270-pound guy jumping at you more than once.
Yeah, we get it. You're super athletic and you can flip. But we've seen it done before with almost a guy that looks identical to you.
Yeah, and who supposedly is on the radar for coming back after the brand split in Bobby Lashley.
I would like to see Bobby Lashley come back. I liked Bobby Lashley. He was cool.
Yeah. Once the brand split happens and we see who comes back, we're going to have either a power ranking or something like that of all the new old guys they brought back. Because there's all this stuff about Kurt Angle and maybe Jeff Hardy, Goldberg coming back. Goldberg will. I'm telling you right now, Goldberg will come back just to hype the video game at some point.
Match. He says he has 50 matches left in him, but I hope he just has one at least.
Yeah. Or just a few spears and jackhammers.
He was a shit wrestler, but he was so cool.
Yeah. I mean, WCW actually booked him right, which I can't believe I'm saying out loud. But just let him have squash matches all year, and who cares?
Yeah.
Just let him throw dudes around and be cool and get out of there in 5 minutes.
You got the biggest pop for 90-second matches you'll ever see.
Exactly.
After that, we had Natalya turning on Becky Lynch after they lost to Charlotte and Dana Brooke, which I predicted that Becky would turn on Natalya, but it was the other way around. But really, it almost doesn't matter because we got to see Sasha Banks finally come back on Raw, which I'm very excited
thank
about.
God.
Yeah.
This Diva Revolution was supposed to be about Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha Banks, the three probably best women's wrestlers of all time. Like, I can already say that just because they actually came up through a developmental system that taught them how to wrestle as opposed to just throwing hot girls in there and then letting them do a couple of moves.
I will say the only one that you're probably missing is Lita, just because she did a bunch of crazy spots off the top rope. And Trish Stratus was pretty good for being very attractive as well. But she was actually a pretty good wrestler too. But besides those two, you're pretty right. It's just hot girls that slap each other, kinda.
Yeah, but you know, I would need like a solid reason from some WWE writer why Sasha Banks has been off TV for the last 2.5 months, unless she was hurt or something. Was that what it was?
Yeah, she legit had a concussion and was off TV for a little while because of that.
Okay, I guess that makes a little bit of sense because this Becky, Natalya, Dana Brooke is fine to have as like Charlotte's lackey. That's actually a decent setup for a lot of stuff. But the Natalya thing, Natalya's garbage. I can't stand watching her.
She's a good
so
wrestler,
bad.
But hearing her cut a promo is just cringeworthy sometimes. Because she makes you know that wrestling is scripted. You can tell that she's gone over that promo 2 to 5 times with somebody else
in the last 30 seconds.
Yeah, and she still just can't make it sound real.
Just so stoic and so awful. And God, you watch her match and you hear her call out spots, which is just like I mentioned, the curtain pullback. That is the ultimate sin in wrestling. Maybe you see them talking to each other and you know they're calling out spots, but you can't hear it because then it just ruins everything.
She is almost as bad at calling spots as John Cena, which is really the one.
And that's tough to do. Career. Yeah. Oh, all right, but I'm glad that they're actually doing something a little bit different, and now Sasha's back. So
so hopefully, I don't know what they'll do at Battleground, but hopefully the plan at SummerSlam is for Sasha to finally get the belt because she deserves it.
That, or I hope it's not a triple threat because women's like they just did that at WrestleMania.
Exactly.
And they need to let Sasha and Charlotte have a 25-30 minute match where they just tear the house down, which they can do.
Because just see what Sasha did with Bayley and some of the NXT TakeOver stuff. They were the best matches on the card, not just women's matches.
Yeah, and
they
just put out that. Yeah, they just put out the 100 Greatest Matches book in Sasha Banks and Bayley at NXT Brooklyn before last year's SummerSlam was in it. It's like one of the, I think, 5 or 6 women's matches in there.
Yeah, good for them. After that, we had the New Day retaining their tag titles over Enzo and Cass, the Vaudevillains, and the Club. I don't know if you caught it, but there was a false pin in that match.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, Enzo and Cass won the match, but weren't supposed to win the match.
Because Luke Gallows or Anderson wasn't there when the ref was. Oh, that's just bad wrestling.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Which I understand it has to be hard working with 8 bodies in the ring. I mean 9 if you count Xavier Woods running around outside. But he needs to be better. You can't blatantly finish the match the wrong way when everybody sees it and just be like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen, so it didn't. And then they just keep going.
So keep going.
Yeah. And then the spot at the end where Big E has one of the Vaudevillains up, and Luke Gallows is there, and you can tell Big Cass
he's just staring at him.
He's supposed to hit Luke Gallows, but Big Cass isn't there yet. So Luke Gallows is just staring at him like, and then finally Cass...
Oh no, my friend's on your shoulders, and I'm not going to help you. Oh, here's Big Boot.
Yeah, finally. But I don't understand why New Day won, because New Day is so over, they don't need the belts anymore. At all.
I think you're right. I think the belt sort of helped out other places much more, but if you've noticed, tag matches have been relegated to one, maybe two on slow Raws. So I think to justify having New Day on every single Raw, which they have to do because they're so over, they've just got to keep the straps on them.
That's true, but Gallows and Anderson are just earning for those belts. They can do so much with them.
They've also just got to get rid of, like you mentioned, there's too many bodies in those Fatal 4-Way tag matches where you can tag everybody else in. Like, 3 times in that match, and it was only a 20-minute match, 3 times the wrong legal people were in there, but 2 guys just ran in the ring and just started going up again.
Exactly. It was so hard to follow. I mean, it was a good idea, but it was poorly executed, I think.
Yeah, and there were some decent spots, you know, as limited as Cass is to this point as a wrestler. I mean, when he gets fired up and he gets that Empire elbow, that big elbow drop, and does a throw in Cass or Enzo around, it's fun. I mean, those are good spots.
Exactly. They're a lot of fun to watch. My take from the match is that the vaudevillains are sloppy workers.
You know, that's what I get, that impression more and more I watch them. I saw them at the house show I went to last month, and it's just like they're just not all the way there. I think they honestly just were the best of NXT, maybe, work-wise. I don't know, but you're right. I think they are limited in some spots, and they just brought them up to liven up the tag team division.
And their gimmick is so goddamn stupid.
Like, it's so campy and so house show that it's hard to translate onto, you know, HD TV. It's like, oh, let's pretend we're from the 20s.
Yeah,
well, why?
It just doesn't make sense. Like, I get you need to come up with new, fresh gimmicks all the time, but how that got passed by creative is beyond me. Because it's just dumb.
Yeah, it has such a small window of effectiveness that it's just like, once you hit that after a month, you're like, oh yeah, why did they do that again? Oh, because of stupidness. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't think
because they have mustaches that can curl up.
I didn't think they would keep the gimmick on the main roster. I thought they would repackage them for sure. But they didn't, and now they're here. Hooray.
Yeah. All right, let's move on from that one.
Rusev versus Titus O'Neil was pretty good, but they
surprisingly good for what easily they could have just penciled as a squash match.
They clearly put it after John Cena and Styles and before the title match. Or no, it was in between Money in the Bank and the title match. 100% because of the NBA Finals.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know that the NBA Finals was on the production truck, and you know that Rusev and Titus O'Neil were penciled in for fourth quarter of the NBA Finals.
Well, yes. That is, oh, man. I'm glad that you and I are, like, smart enough wrestling fans to know that they were just waiting for the last 5 minutes of the fourth to throw that on.
Yep. And then once that was on, your casual wrestling fan was probably like, hey, I wonder if Money in the Bank's still going on. Oh, awesome. I still get to see Rollins and Reigns. Conveniently how that was planned.
Yeah. However, if you're like me who watched the game and then watched the pay-per-view later, decent match. Titus O'Neil was actually a much better singles person than I thought he was going to be. I mean, I don't see him going anywhere, but decent enough for a month.
I hope he eventually goes somewhere because he's such a good dude outside of the ring, and he's a pretty good wrestler. It's just when he cuts promos, he needs to get the shit out of his mouth because that guy mumbles so bad. You can't understand him sometimes.
And I'm so glad they stopped putting him on commentary. Remember that month where they kept putting him and Darren Young on commentary, and he just would not shut the hell up?
Yeah, and he's just got that big booming voice where he overtakes everybody else in the commentary team.
Yeah. And him and JBL had some like weird, just bad chemistry because JBL's trying to save the broadcast.
Yep.
And he's like, "Shut up, JBL."
I'm Titus and I'm trying to do my thing. Cool, man. But yeah, the match was good, and I assume we'll get a return match at Battleground from what we saw on Raw.
Yeah, that's a nice placeholder to wait for the U.S. title to rise up to even a bigger stage for whatever it gets onto.
Exactly. The U.S. title will be the second title on whatever show, because I assume they'll have
and it will actually get
WWE champion.
Oh yeah, it'll actually get
IC title, U.S. title.
Yeah,
which will be good. And then we had John Cena versus AJ Styles, which I loved the match, but the finish, I don't know if it makes me a casual wrestling fan, but it made me so goddamn mad.
I think that's what they were aiming for, because then it makes you want to see him wrestle again. Maybe that was the idea there.
If it would have been a clean finish.
Yeah, but that's you as a fan that just likes good matches.
Yeah.
You got to look at, okay, what are we fighting for this time? Oh, we still don't know who's better because your guy's raining on me.
I know they're waiting to bring Finn Balor up, but on the last podcast, I said that this was the perfect spot. It didn't even have to be Finn Balor. You could have added just anybody else to the club, which was the perfect way because they signed the contract where the club wouldn't do anything, so somebody else could come out and screw John Cena over, and boom, you have a 4-member faction, which always looks better than 3. But they just had the club run out and make everybody mad.
I've got to imagine that Finn Balor is going to be some type of big feature of the draft.
He has to be. He has to be one of the surprise people.
They've got to be hiding, because he hasn't been on NXT since he lost a couple of weeks ago, and he just hasn't really been around.
They did just have him on there, and they announced that he's going to have a match with Shinsuke Nakamura, presumably at NXT TakeOver
really?
Brooklyn. Yeah.
Okay, well, I got to watch that. Jesus, okay. But
yeah, so he's going to do that. But Kevin Owens pulled double duty from NXT and the main roster for a while, so why can't Finn?
Yeah, I'll give you that. But like I said, Finn's got to be some type of big attraction for the draft, which as a business person, and I like looking at the business side of it, the fact that they put the draft on the first live SmackDown to basically guarantee a huge rating, genius.
It is very smart, because what even a casual wrestling fan who's not going to tune in to see where everybody goes.
Yeah, you want to figure out the future of what you're watching.
Yeah, you gotta, if you're even remotely a wrestling fan.
But getting back to the Cena and Styles match, I texted you while I was watching it. You could tell that Cena is just not cardio-wise back in wrestling shape yet. Yeah. Which, God forbid, the guy couldn't work out for 4 or 5 months, and he got back in a wrestling ring immediately after. But they still were able to put on a good match with him being rusty. So I can't wait because this is going to be a few months feud at least.
Oh, it's going through summer, without a doubt.
Yeah, at least. So I can't wait to see when he's back all the way, to see the kind of chain moves they can pull off, and the huge spots that Cena was able to pull off with Owens. Just imagine those spots with a guy like AJ Styles, who can do a lot more reversals and a lot more high-flying stuff than a guy like Owens would.
Yeah, he's a smaller, quicker version of Kevin Owens.
Yeah, it's insanely talented wrestler, just with a different body type and a style of his own that really makes it interesting. And as the best wrestling podcaster out there, David Shoemaker, likes to say, the thing about John Cena is that he makes whoever is in the match with him important. So when it's your favorite guy, that's a huge match. And right now, AJ Styles, even though he's turned heel, is still one of the best wrestlers out there. And the fact that it's going to be those guys for a while, that's a main event thing that can be. That's the best thing. There's no title on the line here. This is just combining all the good things of wrestling and then putting on good matches.
Exactly. I'm so excited to see, because they're going to have a filler match at Battleground with those two, and then there's got to be some type of stipulation match at SummerSlam, which I'm hoping will end up being maybe like a Hell in a Cell match to keep the club out, which would make sense.
Ooh.
But who knows? I'm
really
like good at fantasy booking.
I like it a lot.
After that, we had the Money in the Bank match, where Dean Ambrose won, which I was kind of okay with, but kind of not, because they told you it was happening 6 days earlier.
Yeah, you and I texted about this. That's the type of thing where you just feel slapped in the face by wrestling.
Exactly.
Because it's wait. Everyone wanted Dean Ambrose to win, but why did you tell me? Why did you let him say that out loud?
I was still surprised when I saw it happen, because I didn't think they would actually tell us it was going to happen. But then they told us it was going to happen, and I was mad.
Yeah, had they not said anything, I would have been like, "Oh hell yeah, Dean Ambrose, good job,
Yeah, it's awesome.
woohoo!" But then now it's like, "Oh," and now you're and like the minute that he unhooked the briefcase, I was like, "Well, now I know how this pay-per-view is ending.
Exactly.
He's cashing in."
Yeah, he said he was cashing in, which I know guys have said they were going to cash in before, but you knew he was gonna,
Yeah,
which was kind
but
of.
I mean that's his weak character, you know.
He is. His character is so underdeveloped. Roman Reigns is a better character than Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, not better on the mic, and obviously not over with fans.
And not even
But
a better
as a
wrestler,
character,
but just
there
his-
is more dimension to Roman Reigns than
His
there is
overall
to
character
Dean
is
Ambrose.
better than Dean Ambrose. Because the only
Yeah.
thing Ambrose has going is that he's insane.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah, there's got to be more to it. Like, Randy
Yeah.
Orton was insane before, but he was schizophrenic and punted people on the head, so it was cool.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And then, setting the scene for later, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, sorry.
Yeah.
And Roman Reigns have their match. Very solid, had a lot of good spots. The turnbuckle, power bombs, a couple of those with Seth Rollins doing a very ginger, sunset flip.
It was just
hey,
funny
I'm
to
Roman,
watch.
don't let me get hurt. But
The
had
spear
a
into
really
the
good match.
pedigree spot was so cool. Because I just
Yes.
didn't see it coming.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was the big finish. Roman's going for his finishing spear. Seth turns it into a to a pedigree. Pins him, gets the 1-2-3 clean. Oh my God, Rollins is back. And then Dean Ambrose's music hit, which even though we knew it was kind of happening, still a pop when the music hits.
I didn't think
and then
he
let's
was
get.
cashing in at first. I thought they were
Oh, you
gonna
didn't? Oh,
have a phantom
I knew
cash
he
in.
was. Okay, yeah, you're right. There's still that in there where you didn't know if he was going to do it or not, but you knew he was coming out.
Yeah, for sure.
But now, no, we set that scene a little bit. Now let's get into something you and I disagree about. What happened in the pay-per-view was Seth Rollins is staring at the entryway waiting for Dean Ambrose to come out. Ambrose comes up from behind, hits him with the briefcase, cashes in, hits the Dirty Deeds, 1-2-3, new champion.
It's awesome.
Okay. You like the briefcase hit from behind.
Exactly.
I don't.
And why don't
Okay, let me lay out why. So, Ambrose is a face. Like, he's over with the crowd. People like him, whatever. You don't need to have him hit Rollins with the briefcase to then get the pin. Had he just hit him with the Dirty Deeds, then turn the briefcase in, maybe hit him with another one, and then pin him, you get the exact same result, but you don't get the excuse of, oh well, he cheap shotted me. That's a heel move. Why would you add in a foreign object hit? What bad guys are supposed to do when it's a good guy who's your now champion.
I think they did it because they eventually, if Ambrose holds the title for an amount of time, which I think he'll hold it through SummerSlam, to SummerSlam, not through SummerSlam, they want him to be the Austin-ish anti-hero tweener character, where he does heel-type things to keep winning, but is so over with the crowd that he does the heel-type things, but people still cheer him, which is when the briefcase spot makes total sense.
I'll give you that if that's where they're going, but to even think that Ambrose, mic-wise, promo-wise, is to the level that that Stone Cold got to. I mean,
Well, I'm not saying they're the same person by any means.
True, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm underestimating how over he is. I don't think people are buying tickets to see Dean Ambrose. I think they're like, oh, and Dean Ambrose is there. That's cool. But I think it's more like, oh, Seth Rollins or, still Cena or whatever. But, I just don't see
I'm sure
Ambrose as a guy
has
that's...
a bit of a following, but certainly not to the point that Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins or Cena has. But that could also be because he's never had a run with the main title. So maybe you let him be champion for a couple months, he starts gaining even more of a following. Because he's put on good card matches. His feud with Jericho was really good. He had a good feud with the IC title with Kevin Owens. His Bray Wyatt matches are really good. So he's proven that he can do things in the WWE. So now maybe he can do things in the main event of WWE.
That's fair. Maybe it's like you said. Maybe it's because he hasn't been in that main event scene as consistently that I don't think that he's that type of guy. But maybe he is, and he was just kind of just not there at the right time. But we'll see.
Either way, it's a perfect time to give him a chance.
Yeah, you're right. And with everything about to change, to have a guy that's maybe not your prototypical champion, doesn't look like it, doesn't wrestle like it, everything like that. To have him being the guy to lead you in kind of a transition era, he's the perfect guy that's like, oh, if this isn't working or the ratings are dropping a little bit, easy title change, bang, let's go back. But if it pops, maybe if it really gets over with people, oh, okay, cool, we kind of stumbled onto this without knowing, and we're doing well.
Yeah, I said this to you before. I didn't like when Edge first became champion because he had always just been a mid-card guy, and they stumbled upon that, and Edge was one of the better champions of the 2000s, really.
Yeah, I mean, how long was that feud with Cena? Like a year and a half?
Exactly. And then he had...
But they were just able to keep it fresh.
The Undertaker, he did such good work on SmackDown back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Wayne, take us home, buddy. We're running a little long here.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff, but we had a lot of fun. We're on the Twitter machine at Fat Guys, capital N as in Nancy Friends, on the Facebooks at Fat Guys and Friends, and can be emailed at fatguysandfriends@gmail.com.
I like it. For our handful of listeners here, we are working on potentially getting on iTunes, maybe getting on SoundCloud, something for a little bit easier mobile listening, because we know everyone's on their phones, and YouTube is a difficult app to have open on your phone for a long time. So we're looking into that. Just be patient. We both have jobs and stuff to do, along with just doing this for some fun.
Continue to like and share our stuff so we can...
Yes, that helps.
Be cooler.
Yeah. Talk to you soon.